Strap in, buckle up, and get ready to lay it on the line. This is Not Speeding, Just Qualifying, a podcast that's just as fast as it sounds. What's up, family? Welcome to an all-new episode of the Not Speeding, Just Qualifying podcast. I'm your host, David Lawrence. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Before we get started, just your friendly pre-show reminder, subscribe to us on YouTube. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube Music if you prefer that. We have a nice little corner in the podcast section of the app. Subscribe to us so you don't miss an episode. All right, guys, let's jump straight into our up-to-temp weekend recap. We're starting in the land down under. Repco Supercars Championship kicking off their 2025 season with the thrifty Sydney 500. If you listened to my Friday show where I did a preview on the Supercars season, you may have heard one of the names I mentioned was Cam Waters, twice a runner-up in the championship, trying to make sure he is a name to be reckoned with in 2025, and he did just that. Waters sweeping all three races of the weekend at Sydney Motorsports Park, but not all three races were runaways. Saturday night's race to Under the Lights. After the final pit stop, Cam had to overcome a 10-second deficit in an unbelievable last 5 laps with a lot of contact between both Brock Feeney and Will Brown, the two Red Bull AAA engineering drivers. But Waters emerged victorious as he and Brock Feeney were coming out of the final corner in a drag race, which a lot of people thought Feeney had won over Waters. Waters putting the power down on his Ford Mustang to overtake Feeney at the line in a photo finish. Quite the exhilarating weekend to open the Australian Supercars Championship. They have a couple of weeks off. Their next race will be part of the Formula One Australian Grand Prix weekend. 4 races at Albert Park, Melbourne, March 13th through the 16th. Coming back stateside, round 7 of the Monster Energy AMA Supercross Championship brings the series to Jerry World, AT&T Stadium in Arlington, just outside of Dallas, for the second Triple Crown race of the season. The Triple Crown, instead of the usual format of heat races, last chance qualifier in the main event, instead 3 races, 10 minutes for 250s, 12 minutes for the 450s, and the finishing position is your points for that race. Lowest score over the 3 races is the overall round winner. This is round 5 of the 250 West Championship. I mentioned a couple of episodes ago. I would quickly recap 250 West for you. The season opener was won by Japan's Joe Shimoda. Second round in San Diego was won by Julian Boehmer. Round 3 in Anaheim was the second Anaheim race was won by Hayden Deegan, brother of Haley Deegan and son of Brian Deegan, the Extreme Sports star. In round 4 in Glendale, the first Triple Crown event for the 250 West was won by Jordan Smith. In Arlington, Hayden Deegan stole the show. 2 comeback wins after some not so brilliant starts saw him take the overall win with a second place in the third and final race. And after winning the overall in Arlington, he is now your new 250 West points leader. Moving on to the 450s, this one was thrilling right to the end. Ken Roczen won race 1, Cooper Webb won race 2. Championship co-leader Chase Sexton was en route to win race 3, but faltered with 2 mistakes, first stalling his bike and then getting the line wrong, running into a rider at the absolute wrong time, fell back to eventual 5th place finish, which dropped him from what would have been a win in the overall to 3rd in the final overall standings. Race 3 and the overall in the absolute wildest of circumstances goes to Cooper Webb, his 7th win in the Arlington Supercross, and he now takes over the points lead for himself. 450s are heading to Daytona. 250 West, they're off next weekend, but they will be back March 8th in the first combined East-West event of the season at Indianapolis Saturday night, March 8th. And rounding out our recap of the weekend, triple header NASCAR weekend in Atlanta. Truck Series, the Freight 208, Kyle Busch holding off Stuart Friesen in a photo finish at the line to take his first win of the season in his first race of the season. If you did not hear the news, Kyle will be back. He will do 5 races. He will split them between the 7 and 07 rotating driver cars at Spire Motorsports. So a good way to kick up the Spire relationship again. His second straight Atlanta win. Also racing with Spire last season and winning in 24 at Atlanta. The nightcap for Saturday, the Xfinity Series Bennett 250, and it was the Bennett Chevrolet Douglasville, Georgia's Austin Hill continuing his domination of his hometown track in Atlanta, his 5th Atlanta win in 7 Xfinity races, and Hill now takes the points lead out of Atlanta. And then in the Cup Series, the Better Health 400, an unbelievable race with a final lap that has NASCAR fans scratching their heads yet again. Christopher Bell leading Carson Hocevar as NASCAR throws the yellow in the middle of 3 and 4 for a wreck that did not look like it would impede the leaders. Josh Berry wrecking behind the leaders. NASCAR race control throwing the yellow flag before the cars get to the finish. Christopher Bell ahead on official review. Christopher Bell, your winner of the Better Health 400 after the triggering of the yellow and freezing of the field. Next race, NASCAR Cup and Xfinity Series will be heading to COTA next weekend. Truck Series will be off. That concludes our Up to Temp segment for this week. Now let's get into the main topic of today's episode. This weekend is the first weekend in March, and that means racing season is truly kicking into high gear, and we got 3 major championships kicking off their seasons this weekend. Today, our focus is the FIA World Endurance Championship. 2025 will be the 13th season of this iteration of the FIA World Endurance Championship, going back to 2012, and if you really want to count the precursor, the Intercontinental Le Mans Cup, going back to 2010. The series is organized by the Automobile Club de l'Ouest and sanctioned by the FIA. First, let's run through the schedule. Friday night, February 28th, will kick off the season in Qatar with a 10-hour, 1,812 kilometer race. This is the only set distance race of the championship. 1,812 kilometers, the distance derived from December 18th, which is Qatar National Day. So again, this race is a set distance race of 1,812 kilometers with a 10-hour time limit. Again, that race will be February 28th. Afterwards, the first 6-hour race of the season, the series will head to Imola, Italy, April 20th. Then the final tune-up for the Le Mans 24 hours, a 6-hour race at Spa-Francorchamps, May 10th. And then the 4th round is the 93rd running of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, June 14th and 15th. Afterwards, back to regular 6 hours, the traditional length of races throughout the season. The Sao Paulo 6-hour, July 13th. The series sole stop to the United States, Circuit of the Americas, Austin, Texas, the Lone Star Le Mans, September 7th. The 6 hours of Fuji, September 28th. And then the 8-hour season finale in Bahrain will be November the 8th. Next, let's talk about classes. We have 2 classes in the FIA World Endurance Championship. We have LMGT3, where the cars have green backgrounds on the numbers, and Hypercar, where the numbers have red backgrounds. Let's start with GT3. This is the second season of LMGT3 in the World Endurance Championship, and there are 9 manufacturers, 2 cars apiece, so the category will have 18 cars competing. Let's talk manufacturers, starting with Aston Martin. Aston Martin is one of only 2 manufacturers with 2 separate teams campaigning 1 car apiece. The French Racing Spirit of Le Mans team will field a car, and the American Heart of Racing outfit will field an Aston Martin Vantage GT3. Representing BMW will be the Belgian team WRT. Corvette will be represented by the British TF Sport outfit. Vista AF Corse of Italy will represent Ferrari. Germany's Proton competition will represent Ford. The French Akotis ASP team will be representing Lexus, Toyota's luxury arm. McLaren will be represented by the British United Autosports outfit, which is co-owned by McLaren CEO Zak Brown, by the way. Porsche will have Team Manthey, and they will be joined this year by the Iron Dames. And last but not least, the new manufacturer to the group this year, Mercedes, replaces Lamborghini, and they will be partnering with a returning team in Iron Lynx. Iron Lynx essentially swapping out Lamborghinis for Mercedes this season. Each team can have 2 or 3 drivers. Teams can only have 1 pro driver, and they must have at least 1 bronze driver. Bronze and silver drivers for 3 driver teams do have minimum driving times over the course of the race, and they do vary by race distance. Moving on to Hypercar. A new rule in Hypercar set by the FIA and the ACO this year has each manufacturer must run a minimum 2 cars. The cars can be built to either LMDH regulations or Hypercar regulations. Here are the brands in alphabetical order. First is Alpine, returning for their second season with their A424 to LMDH specification, and the Alpine Endurance team by Signatech will be running their cars. Next up are the new kids on the block. Aston Martin with the first ever non-hybrid hypercar, the V12 powered Valkyrie, built to the Le Mans hypercar regulations, and they will be ran by Heart of Racing. Next up is BMW for their second season with the M Hybrid V8 built to the LMDH regulations, and the Belgian team WRT will be tasked with running those cars. Next up is Cadillac with their V Series R built to LMDH specification, and they have a new team running those cars this year. Gone is Chip Ganassi Racing. In comes Hertz Team Yota, the team that has been campaigning privateer Porsche 963s the last 2 years, now steps up to a factory effort with the American manufacturer. Interesting to see how they'll go this season. Next up, Ferrari with their 499P built to hypercar regulations. They'll be entered by Ferrari AF Corsa, which is the factory arm of the Ferrari team. 2 cars for them. And then there will be a third Ferrari 499 that will be entered privately by AF Corsa. Next up is Peugeot with their 9X8 built to hypercar regulations. Peugeot Sport has 2 of those 9X8s ready to go for this new season. And last year, they went from their radical no rear wing concept. They did finally bolster a wing on the back, and hoping for some bigger and better results this year. And then there is Porsche with their 963 built to LMDH specifications. Proton will be a privateer, while Porsche Penske Motorsports back with 2 cars for the full World Endurance Championship season. And last but most certainly not least, the defending manufacturer champions, Toyota with their GR010 hypercar built to hypercar specifications for Toyota Gazoo Racing. Now that we've talked about the schedule, the cars, and the teams, now let's talk drivers. I picked 6 drivers, 3 from GT3 and 3 from Hypercar, that you definitely want to keep an eye on for this upcoming World Endurance Championship season. Let's start in GT3, and let's start with a pro driver, Kelvin van der Linde. He's making the move from Akotis ASP, who was running Lexuses, to BMW with Team WRT. If you have been out of the loop, Kevin signed as a BMW Works driver in the off-season and goes from a team that didn't contend last year and really didn't have the car to contend with to a race-winning operation, and he has a true opportunity to show his speed and believe he can make a difference in the squad as the pro driver on the number 46 BMW with Valentino Rossi and Ahmad Al-Harti. Second driver to look out for, Zachary Robichon of Canada. He's another driver shifting teams for 2025. After racing with Proton in 2024, he moves over to Heart of Racing for 2025. The silver-rated driver is no stranger to Aston Martin or Heart of Racing. He did a partial season with the team in IMSA in 2024 and has a class podium with him at the Rolex 24 at Daytona already this season. The 2021 IMSA GTD champion is a steady and quick wheel man, and a season in the Mustang didn't prove just as much with a best finish of 6th. Like Van der Linde, Robuchon has a proven race-winning team with history, and I think that could make some big dividends as he looks for a GT3 championship. Last but not least, I'm going to talk about a bronze driver, and just like Robuchon, American IMSA fans, you know this face very well, Ben Keating. Keating has reunited with TF Sport after he won Le Mans and the GTE-AM Championship with them in 2022, and reuniting with Corvette after winning Le Mans and the World Endurance Championship with them in 2023. Ben is probably one of the most skilled, amateur, experienced bronze drivers around. He already has 7 wins in GTE-AM competition, the World Endurance Championship, and he used the Rolex 24 to get reacclimated with TF Sport. TF Sport, of course, ran Trackhouse Racing's GTD Pro Corvette effort, and Ben was a part of that lineup. He's been quite successful as a competitor in the World Endurance Championship, and with bronze drivers usually set to open for the team during the races, expect Ben to set the tempo for his number 33 team throughout the entire season. Now that I've covered my GT3 drivers to watch, let's finish this off with hypercar drivers to watch. My first hypercar driver to watch, Tom Gamble. A rookie in a top class in a new car. It could be a recipe for success. After being a McLaren factory driver in 2024 with British GT and World Challenge Sprint on his menu, the former ELMS LMP3 champion and LMP2 race winner is set for his first prototype drive since 2022 as he joins Aston Martin and the Heart of Racing. This is the first time he'll ever be in top class machinery. Let's see what the young 23-year-old Brit can do with his big break at Aston Martin in the World Endurance Championship this season. Second driver to watch, someone who is definitely no stranger to prototypes, Kevin Magnussen. Fresh off his Formula One career, he's jumping in with a team with a high ceiling at BMW, but as I mentioned, K-Mag's already done prototypes before. He did the old DPI formula in IMSA racing with Cadillac in 2021, a race winner, and a championship contender if he didn't fall ill before the Petit Le Mans season finale, forcing him to be sidelined. He's experienced, he's hungry, and he's quick to show he has not lost pace from his Formula One tenure, and he will definitely be up to the challenge with a BMW factory prototype drive. Last but not least, let's bring another youngster in, Julian Andlauer for Porsche Penske Motorsport. The 25-year-old Porsche factory driver is getting his biggest drive to date. Granted, he's not new to 963s. He spent a season with Proton last year in the 963. He did get 2 points finishes with a season best of 5th at Spa. He's very accomplished, a class winner at Le Mans before, a winner in the highly competitive Porsche Super Cup, Asian Le Mans Series, and the European Le Mans Series. However, all of that was in GTs. Let's see if he can perform for one of the biggest names in racing, Roger Penske, as he steps into the car that won the Drivers' Championship last season. And the biggest question for Julian, can he hack it as a prototype driver? Only time will tell. We'll all be looking to find out and see. If you want to watch the World Endurance Championship here in the United States, the first and last hours of each race will be shown live on the Motor Trend Network, and all races from start to finish will be streamed live on Max. There is one caveat I do need to mention. The 24 Hours of Le Mans will be shown live flag to flag in its entirety on the Motor Trend Network in June. Well, family, we have reached the end of another episode. Thank you guys so much for listening today. Before we go, just a reminder, Follow us on our social media channels. We are on X, IG, and Blue Sky. We are at the handle NSJQ Podcast. You can also, as I mentioned at the start of the episode, subscribe to us on YouTube or YouTube Music. That way you will be with us whenever we drop something new in the feed. And if you want to follow me on my personal social medias, I will drop the handles to those in the description box to this episode. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Not Speeding, Just Qualifying podcast. Please know I do appreciate you guys tuning in and listening every single time we drop some new content for you. Hope you guys keep continuing to come on back. But until next time, I'm David Lawrence, and remember, you are not living life to the fullest until you're going flat out. Bye, everyone.